Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda-Rae Prescott, and welcome to Justice for Vanity Fair 2018. This presentation is the result of over 5 years of loving this beautiful Regency adjacent miniseries. I've always intended to write about this topic, but I never got the chance. So video is going to replace what I've wanted to write about the topic. I'd like to thank virtualjanecon staff, volunteers, and participants for allowing me the opportunity to discuss this lovely miniseries. It's so near and dear to me, and I hope it will become your fave as well after this presentation. As a content warning, this video will touch upon historical racism and colonialism, but don't let that deter you from watching all the way to the end. Vanity Fair 2018 miniseries is based on the 1847 novel by William Makepeace Thackeray of the same name. There are 7 episodes each, and each about an hour long. Vanity Fair tells a story of the excesses of Regency society by documenting the life of Becky Sharp, a young woman who did not inherit any wealth. She must make her way in the world by marrying well and climbing the social ladder and pretending that she's distant French nobility. The narrator who introduces each episode is the author himself playing a character. Michael Palin from the Monty Python comedy troupe plays William Makepeace Thackeray as he introduces each episode in Becky's life. The concept behind the title Vanity Fair is actually stolen from borrowed liberally from John Bunyan's book Pilgrim's Progress. Vanity Fair in his book was a fictional town ruled by Beelzebub, aka Satan, and it was a constant country fair. Like, just picture a carnival going every day, and it was representing perpetual sloth, laziness, and greed, which Makepeace Thackeray believed was the epitome of Regency society at the time. The story in the miniseries begins with Becky Sharp graduating from finishing school with only the dismal prospect of becoming a governess for an MP far away from London. It's not paid very well, but she wants to live the high life, so she's going to do whatever she can to get there. But first, before her position begins, she spends a week with her best friend from school, Amelia Sedley, and her brother Joss in London before she goes off to the wilds of Nowhereville to begin her governess position. There's more to life once she starts her position as governess, and the show follows that through from the beginning of her career to the end of her career. It also follows Amelia's life as well, as they converge and contrast, and their family, their friends, their love interests, their eventual marriages, and how the Napoleonic War shapes their lives. I'm not going to give away the ending. I'm not going to give away the AGA, but I hope this summary will want you to watch some more. The novel Vanity Fair has been adapted several times for both screen and stage. For many people, the 2004 film adaptation directed by Mira Nair and starring Reese Witherspoon was likely the one that will spring to mind right away. This video is not going to compare the two adaptations because I feel like way too much has been done already. And also, I want to support the miniseries and more people watching it. So that's why. And speaking of the title Vanity Fair, yes, we all know there's that magazine called it. The book came first. Vanity Fair, the magazine, was not published until 1913, but they liked the title because they were referring to fashion and other happenings in high society. Why does Vanity Fair 2018 need defending? There's a couple reasons. And this soldier from episode 5 sums up my mood for the past 5 years about this show. In fact, 2023 is the official 5th anniversary of both the UK and US releases. The UK airing started in September of 2018, and the US airing was in December 2018. I feel like 5 years is a great space of time to reflect on a piece of pop culture because it's long enough from the initial news cycle that someone would have want a second look at something, and also too, you could see what other pieces of pop culture were influenced by the same thing. So this is what my goal is here. I firmly believe that Vanity Fair 2018 holds up compared to the other dramas that were also released that year because it was a little bit predicting what was to come in terms of trends in fandom and in pure drama and in Austen fandom in particular. The reason why it is consistently overlooked by Austen fans, Austen Jason fans, and period drama fans in general is a little bit more complicated than one would think at first. And I've based this assessment on years of tracking period drama conversations on social media and talking about the series to other fans. A lot of times, this is the first time they've heard of the fact that Vanity Fair was turned into a miniseries. There were other miniseries versions before in the 90s and 80s and earlier, but I believe those are not as accessible to audiences as they are today. The fact that Vanity Fair has been overlooked in period drama fandom is also a little bit weird because you would think that Bridgerton would have inspired people to go back and watch, which it did, but oftentimes it's left out of the conversations of, hey, if you like Bridgerton, you'd like this instead or as well. Or if you didn't like Bridgerton, try this out. It's often Vanity Fair 2018 kind of gets left out of conversation, and I hope this video will fix that. I believe, though, a lot of that started in terms of overlooking is that there were, when it first came out in the UK, there were negative reviews from both the professionals and fans alike and bloggers. And they were, a lot of the frustration was that the miniseries is targeting younger audiences. It was also, they're not portraying the Regency the way the historical sticklers would have liked. However, nowadays, with Bridgerton in front of us, I think Vanity Fair 2018 will have a better shot at more love in fandom because it is essentially predicting the future in that regard. And I believe that the negative opinions were definitely based on ageism, aka not wanting younger fans to have something to identify with in fandom, and also good old fashioned fandom gatekeeping. Looking back now that we have Bridgerton and several other dramas pushing the boundaries in Austen and Austen adjacent media, Vanity Fair 2018 was ahead of the curve in several, and especially in regards to how the miniseries balanced historical recreation and creative license in historical fiction. And I think that's where these negative reviews were coming from. Vanity Fair 2018's recognition in the US and internationally is a different story than the UK, and it is partially, to me, caused by where the production is itself. Vanity Fair 2018 can be found on Amazon Prime Video, and I think the fact that it is on Amazon for some people is a deterrent because of the paywall and also because of people's various feelings on Amazon as a company is blocking people from watching it. And also, too, Amazon is not always seen as a go-to source for British television, even though they do have quite a bit on there between their own material that they own and their contracts with other companies such as BritBox and Acorn. That's probably why a lot of people haven't seen it. In particular, my grievance with Vanity Fair's United States release is that the premiere date was overshadowed by the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel season 2 promotion. The cast of Vanity Fair in the United States did very little promotion. I've only seen a grand total of one interview from the junket ever in the United States. It was very weird. It basically was because Amazon has this really bad pattern of shafting their UK collaboration promotions with, when they promote things that they made in collaboration with ITV and BBC, they don't get as much promotion as they do the things that they produce from American creatives. And also, in particular, their sci-fi series also gets a lot of promotion. And then you see like crickets on their British collabs with, like, you can see his pattern with things like The Outlaws, The Pursuit of Love, Riches to an extent as well, and even Small Axe. Actually, Small Axe, I think, was the one that they actually did a real promotional campaign for. The rest of them just get dumped with like very little advertising on Facebook. And hopefully this video will do more advertising to fans directly than Amazon has done in the past 5 years. There are several reasons why I believe Vanity Fair deserves a first time watch or a rewatch, depending on who you are, because the cast and crew are still making contributions to Bridgerton and other Regency adjacent period dramas today. And the themes of Vanity Fair 2018, I feel like, are still relevant in fandom. And let me go into more detail on those points. Even though Thackeray in his lifetime might have been a critic of Austen, or and since then, Vanity Fair's story has been positioned as a quote unquote anti-Austen story, I actually believe the 2018 adaptation script does a long way of work towards showing audiences that the characters are actually appealing to Austen fans. The Austen archetypes are there. If you take a close look at the story, you can see the parallels, you can see the thematic threads that connect the two. First of all, Vanity Fair's main characters occupy a similar level of economic status compared to Austen's characters. You'll see they're roughly around the same status. The main differences is that Vanity Fair has a more international view of story. There's scenes that play out in London. There's scenes that play out in Belgium. There's a bit of India and West Africa in there as well, and also mentions the Caribbean. So it's a wider focus than the traditional countryside that Austen's characters inhabit. I believe the 2018 script genius is making these connections both visually and also in in the way the characters are acting themselves, and that's a credit to the screenwriter Greta Hughes, who I'll mention later on in the video for other reasons. But in particular, I noticed that this script, after rewatching, there are connections thematically also to Persuasion in particular. Why do I say that? Becky and Amelia, the main characters, their love story trajectories have a Persuasion esque feeling to them. I'm not going to give any spoilers with that, but you could definitely see the echoes there. Um, in terms of some other elements, I feel like Amelia's story in particular has elements. Amelia is the character here pictured. She's a bit of a mix of Marianne and Elizabeth Bennet. Lady Catherine de Bourgh has a kindred spirit in Lady Matilda. Butte Crawley reminds me of Reverend Collins, but toned down in creepiness. Rawdon and George, who are some of the suitors for Becky and Amelia, there definitely have similarities from some of the Austen male heroes and male antagonists as well. Captain Dobbin, who's another friend, has shades of Captain Wentworth. Joss Joseph, Amelia's brother, also remind me, and also Miss Swartz have another character. Both have parallel characters in Sanditon, and we'll discuss those two characters in particular a bit. There are quite a few reasons why Vanity Fair 2018 was ahead of the period drama curve, but I want to point out the music in particular. I think was one of these points that was a source of contention in fandom in terms of the reviews. The theme song is an acoustic cover of All Around the Watchtower, that classic 60s and 70s hit. The lyrics, if you think about the lyrics though, about jokers and thieves and princes, that is an invocation of reason society. It makes sense. Even if people don't believe it matches the mood, it matches the story perfectly. And it shows that Becky and the other characters are trapped in a social order they can't get out of. And their struggle, and also too, their struggles to survive is tied into the fact that Regency society is often ostentatious and doesn't value the things that are really worth having in life. And that's what the theme and the introduction of each episode always points out. I also think now Bridgerton has opened up the door in regards to tolerating music in period dramas straying away from instrumentals that sound vaguely historical. Persuasion, Netflix also had modern pop and rock music in it as well. I think fans today have more tolerance for breaking the rules in this front because Bridgerton was so upfront about taking creative license. Another thing I want to know about the opening is that this style of opening also predates Lady Whistledown as a narrator by the show using Thackeray as the introduction person for each episode. Also, the end credits music for each episode is a different acoustic cover of a pop or rock song as well. That those songs also reflect Becky's current situation or what will be her situation later on in the episode. So you definitely want to watch for that when you're going through it. Vanity Fair 2018 was also ahead of the curve on anti-heroines in period drama. This shot of Becky rolling in her dough symbolizes how the type of character, type of traits she would have as a character are would often be seen as negative in other shows, but she is our essentially our hero. She is an anti-hero, but she's also our hero at the same time. I think that is predicting the success of the Emma 2020 Emma movie and also upcoming season 3 Bridgerton. Um, for many viewers going into season 3 Bridgerton in particular, especially BIPOC who didn't read the books, it's hard to root for Penelope to have a happy ending when they see her as a bully to both Marina and Eloise. Although it is too soon to tell exactly where the parallels between Becky and Penelope will be, I believe that this is a useful frame for discussion in the future. So I think if you watch Vanity Fair now and then a couple months you watch Bridgerton season 3, you'll see where there's some character development parallels. No spoilers, of course. I mentioned earlier that Vanity Fair 2018 is continuing to influence period drama today, and one of the key reasons behind that is that what I love about watching British TV is you get to see the same actors over and over again in different roles. Sometimes they flip between character types as well. And when I rewatched the miniseries, I was surprised by how many actors were probably more famous now than they were at the time. And I'm going to give you a couple of snippets of the hey, I know that guy from or that girl from that show later on, but I don't want you to completely cheat and use IMDb. Olivia Cooke plays Becky Sharp, and I'm sure most people know her now for her role on the Game of Thrones prequel, The House of Dragon. But I have no doubt that Vanity Fair 2018 was in her audition reel because she just is so wonderful and funny and engaging in the role, and would not doubt that's I think for the fans of the Game of Thrones universe in particular, I think y'all should go back and watch Vanity Fair 2018 in particular. Vanity Fair 2018 has direct connections to Bridgerton. The most recognizable one in front of the camera would be Amelia Sedley, who was played by Claudia Jessie, who most Bridgerton fans know as Eloise Bridgerton. Um, Now, Jesse's character in Vanity Fair is wildly different from Eloise, but you could see where, again, I'm sure Vanity Fair was in our audition tape as well. Vanity Fair's 20 Vanity Fair 2018's historical advisor, Dr. Hannah Greig, actually also works on Bridgerton as their etiquette advisor. So there's a lot of set design overlap and how art and other objects are carefully crafted and shown to the audience to evoke Regency Society rules and how they would have lived. And Dr. Greig's work is clearly a huge part of both shows. And you can even particularly tell her influence in the way both series portray Vauxhall Gardens. Actually, this photo here is a shot of Vanity Fair's interpretation of Vauxhall Gardens. You could tell that her influence is there in that, as well as the way the royal court scenes are played out and the ballroom scenes as well. Vanity Fair 2018 also has several other non-Austen adjacent connections as well. Here pictured is Captain Rawdon Crawley, played by Tom Bateman, and many may recognize him as John Beecham from Beecham House, and also the recent Agatha Christie movie adaptation of Death in the Nile. Captain Dobbin, played by Johnny Flynn, pictured here, went on to play Knightley in Emma 2020. So there is another Austin universe connection as well. And the supporting cast members are also well known for current or recently aired period adjacent series. Butte Crawley, who is Rawdon's brother, is played by Matthew Baton, and many people would recognize him for his writing and starring in the BBC Ghost series and guest starring in CBS Ghosts. Saran Jones plays Amelia's mean finishing school headmistress, and of course, period drama fans would recognize her today as the star of Gentleman Jack, which is a very trailblazing period drama in its own right, as it expanded a queer representation on the period drama screen. So yeah, this cast is a lot of heavy hitters in this cast, of course. Sam the Butler, played by Richard Campbell, eventually goes on to fame in Small Axe and also the not period drama at all, which is a really good show I love called Grace on BritBox. There are a few other notable cast members with connections all across the British period drama landscape, but I want y'all to watch and play the hey, it's so and so from so and so games. The production team behind Vanity Fair 2018 also continues to play a huge role in Austin fandom and Austin adjacent space as well, and period drama fandom overall. It is important for me to note that Vanity Fair 2018's production company is called Mammoth Screen, and Mammoth Screen is oddly enough behind a lot of other period dramas you love. You may not know who they are, but once you start seeing names all the time in the credits, you'll make the connections that I have. Mammoth has produced Lost in Austin, which is important to note for Austin fans, and they're also the masterminds behind Poldark, Victoria, the recent Agatha Christie miniseries adaptations, the recently concluded Endeavor, upcoming World on Fire, and a couple more things they have in the production oven that I cannot wait to see. And in particular, many of their dramas have pushed back against whitewash history in their own ways, and I'm sure I'd probably make an entire other video about how much I love them. But for now, I'm going to stop myself from making a tangent and return back to why Vanity Fair 2018 continues to be influential. And I think another part of that is the screenwriter herself, Gwyneth Hughes. She actually teamed up with Mammoth Screen once again to make the recent Tom Jones adaptation that PBS aired a couple months ago. This adaptation of Tom Jones actually expands the period drama landscape in its own way, via race bending the main female character and also changing the way we think about historical escapism versus acknowledging historical realities. I've written a lot about that elsewhere, but for now, just know that the some of the story threads that started in Vanity Fair can clearly be seen in Tom Jones. Speaking of racial issues, now here is where Vanity Fair 2018 is a very interesting case of ideas that are presented but are not always explicitly explained or gone over, but the ideas are there. I would argue that compared to other recent Austin and Austin adjacent adaptations, Vanity Fair does not do as much whitewashing as some others have. But at the same time, 2018 is still early in the development of the recent, more diverse and inclusive period dramas. It's in that middle transitional stage. Now, Vanity Fair does not completely tear apart Regency era slavery and colonialism, but is more explicit in showing that it is a source of wealth and social advancement than some of the other recent Austin adjacent adaptations. This scene pictured here is one of the scenes that are set in India. A couple of the characters have involvement in colonialism in India. Jocelyn Lee's brother is a colonial administrator, and Captain Dobbin at one point is also posted to India. His regiment is posted there. Joss sends money back to the Sedley family to support them. Rawdon Crawley at one point is also appointed to be a colonial governor for Remote Island off of West Africa. The other characters who are wealthy clearly probably have some involvement in either the slave trade directly or profit from slavery produced goods, or other forms of colonialism as well. But showing these scenes in India and elsewhere prove that Vanity Fair 2018 will age well compared to other dramas, because these issues are at least brought up, if not, even if they're not fully explained. A big reason why I'm frustrated by the lack of attention to Vanity Fair 2018 season fandom is because it, without a doubt, raised the Black heiress question earlier than Bridgerton. Miss Swartz, who is played here by Sienna Kelly, it predates Georgiana Lamb and Sanditon and the entire plot of Queen Charlotte and Bridgerton story. Um, Miss Swartz starts off in Vanity Fair in the background at Becky Amelia's finishing school, and then she later reappears as a potential marriage mate for one of the characters. She is described as having way more money than everybody else, and that's why she is one of the most eligible bachelorettes in the ton at time. Or they don't use the word the ton, but you know what I mean. However, her presence in Vanity Fair raises an interesting question. Her appearance definitely reflects African ancestry. However, Miss Swartz's last name indicates that her white relatives are actually Jewish origin, and they have possible North African and Sub-Saharan African ancestry as well, based on the meaning of her last name, which is often translated to black. Um, her inheritance in this regard and her positioning in society is even more complicated in Georgiana Lamb's case, because of the intersection of Black identity, Jewish identity in the Caribbean in this era. And I wish more period dramas would explore that space and that topic, because we're way overdue for, in particular, for Jewish history-centric drama that takes place before 1900. Now, Thackeray's original depiction of both Miss Swartz and Sam are problematic. However, the Hughes' script does a pretty good job of cleaning up Thackeray's issues, because there is no doubt that there is definite racism and, of course, for Miss Schwartz, also anti-Semitism in the plot as well. But I would say for the people who believe that people of color did not exist in this era, this is absolutely not true. Because I mean, Thackeray was writing this book in 1847, so why would he mention this if this wasn't people's actual lives? Um, and I hope that the a resurgence of Vanity Fair 2018's popularity will mean that we get more dramas on this topic and expanding on such issues as well. So, yep, that's another reason why I love this show so much. To conclude this video, because I don't want this video to be as long as an episode itself, I love watching Becky and Amelia's story the first time through, and I've watched it several times since 2018, and I rewatched it, of course, for this video. And each time I just keep seeing new and wonderful things about the show, about an individual character, or about a scene that I didn't notice before. And I hope that all of these just reasons are going to be reasons for you to go back and give Vanity Fair either first time watch or a rewatch, depending on your situation. If you're struggling with finding where to watch Vanity Fair 2018, if you're not in America, I would suggest wherever you find the popular British dramas such as Sanditon and other British period dramas, probably start there first. I would use other less legal means as the last recourse. In particular, if you are interested in trying to go around having to access Amazon, I'd probably look at your library resources as well, because they probably do have ways to access many streaming shows without you having to pay for it. I do hope that you go back and watch Vanity Fair 2018, and Once you do, please tell me your thoughts on the show. I'm not guaranteeing that everybody will get as obsessed as I am in the past 5 years about this, but hopefully you do. And even if you don't end up loving it as much as I do, I still hope it was worth your time. Once you watch or rewatch, please tell me your thoughts. Feel free to leave comments on the video after you rewatch. My social media contacts are also up there. My email address for longer questions and thoughts is info@amanda-raeprescott.com. My website is amanda-raeprescott.com. My username is Amanda R. Prescott on Twitter, Threads, and Instagram. And I started a Blue Sky and it's MC. But if you want to reach me out to me there, I will answer. It's my username there is Amanda-Rae Prescott, my full name, and then at .bsky.social. Here are the photo credits so I don't get sued. Vanity Fair 2018 is a trademark of ITV Studios, Mammoth Screen, and Prime Video. All the stills were obtained from Kiss Them Goodbye. There's a whole gallery of just Vanity Fair stills there. Thanks, y'all, for watching.